Welcome to the Supported Living Property Podcast with your host, me, Lisa Brown, the place to learn about supported living property investing.
Hi Louise, it's great to have you here today. For people who don't know you, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi Lisa. Thanks for the invitation. It's very exciting to be here. So my name's Louise Keevil. I'm the acting CEO and a co-founder of a reasonably new charity called Where I Want to Live. I'll tell you a little bit more about the charity in a moment. My background is I've worked for many years in post-16 residential further education. So when I say many years, 20 years now, in England and Wales. So I've worked with, I think it's fair to say, thousands of young people and families, and probably every local authority in England and Wales. Most recently, I was principal of a college in North Wales, so have a good understanding of education and care. And most importantly, that transition from education into adult life. I was very involved in the changes to the legislation in 2014 with the introduction of the Education and Healthcare Plans and the Care Act in England, and then working closely with the ALN bill in Wales and the new Care Acts there.
Amazing. So much experience there to share. And tell us a little bit. So you've said this is a relatively new charity called Where I Want to Live. Tell us a little bit about that, how that's come about.
So our charity has come about because part of my role in the college sector was very much about transition. So working with families and local authorities, making sure the curriculum's appropriate with the view to what the future might look like. And time again, came across young people who, several things really, I guess. One, they're living, because we're residential, then they're living away from home, living with friends, and we're seeing a very different side to them at college to maybe the side that families and social care are seeing in the home area. And I'd quite often be in meetings, a chair of our EHCP updates, and I say quite often, more than quite often, a young person would have met with us beforehand and would be saying maybe, oh, I'd like to live with my friends, keep living with my friends when I finish college. And then the next day you go into the meeting and there's a discussion with family and local authority. And it's really difficult for those young people to then express to their parents that actually maybe they'd like to live with friends. And from a local authority perspective, there's always been this kind of expectation that the young person would move back to the home area, which is also really tricky. And having been working with the reforms of 2014 in England and Wales, then from a legislation point of view, that's not a requirement. So it just puts lots of people in a really difficult position. Obviously, firstly, the young person, but also the education provider who has a duty to provide impartial advice and guidance, and obviously that legislation around the EHCPs, but also conversations in families. And also that relationship with the local authority, who have also got their thing going on. So after I left the college, I was working independently with some families, helping them to find a placement for their young people, because there were 4 families, and their now adult children wanted to continue to live together, but they lived they came from different local authority areas. So it was really tricky to bring all of the people together that were required in order for those 4 people to continue to live together. And we were able to achieve it.
Well done, because that's no mean feat, is it?
No,
Bringing together a lot of different people.
Yeah. And so then now, this was 5 years ago, and they're now still living together very happily in Watford, which is not any of their local authority areas. So and all 4 of them are still there, which has gone really well. So myself and one of the parents, through that process, thought we've got to do something about this, because that's been a real challenge and a real success. But from my point of view, I knew that all up and down the country this wasn't happening, and I was hearing there's many sides to the coin, the story, and I was hearing all of them. But ultimately, there has to be a voice for the young person. And I felt that nobody really truly knew exactly what the young person wanted, because people are hearing different things. Actually, how empowered are they? What's their journey of self-discovery about the options? So the charity was born.
Brilliant.
So where I want to live, we have a vision of a country where people with learning disabilities have real choice about where and how they live. Shall I keep telling you about the?
Yeah, please do.
Yes.
It's really interesting. Yeah.
So that's our vision. We're a trustee board of 6 families, a solicitor within there, a tech expert, and myself in terms of legislation and the systems. So so our first steps though were to recognise that we didn't have all the answers by any means. Acknowledge all the good work. When I say people are having different conversations, everybody's having those conversations with the best interest, with the tools that they've got, and doing a really fabulous job. But things didn't seem to be joined up. And as a charity, we recognise that we don't have all of that experience, and we needed all of those stakeholders on board with us. So it's been quite a journey, and we decided early on that it was really important that whilst the young person's always front and centre, and it's all about voice, choice, control, we need to try and make sure that we don't conflict with any professional or personal objectives, and ideally complement them. So we were reaching out to get people on board to come along with us, which was great. And we very quickly realised as well that there's lots of good work going on, acknowledging and doing something about there being not enough options. So there's not enough houses. There's lots of initiatives and things happening in order to try and resolve that. But who's really taken a step back and finding out what the young people want? And so our first steps were to find a way to empower people with learning disabilities to be able to discuss, share and plan what they think their future might look like. And given the complexity, I suppose, in terms of all of the different stakeholders that are in that network supporting young people, we very quickly realised that we needed to use technology, so that when somebody is using their telephone or whatever it is that they might have, what's increasingly happened over the last, 20 years, I suppose, people have got their piece of kit and they take it with them wherever they go. So, and that piece of kit is their piece of kit. So people generally feel quite safe talking to that piece of kit, whether
as in their phone or their iPad.
Yeah,
or something. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Their technology that's there. So we decided quite quickly that we'd be using technology. Are you happy for me to continue?
Yeah, no. So I think the whole thing for a lot of people is this whole thing about individuals having that right to choose, that someone isn't just shoehorned into a void somewhere, that it's a house with a space. Let's put that person into that void, and that's what is still happening in some places. I think less than it was, but I think it is still happening. And that thing that actually everyone has a right to choose where they live, don't they? And everyone has the right to say where they're going. And so finding ways to get that information out of people so that you can help them make those informed choices, that's no easy thing, is it, at all, Louise?
Wow, no, absolutely. And I'm hearing that something you hear when you use the word void, it just makes me shudder, because the legislation is so good, but the information is just not there.
No, and I've been in meetings with young people who've actually said, what is a void? Why am I going into a void? It's quite it sounds quite scary, doesn't it? It's like, oh my goodness, that's so wrong, And
we recognise as a charity that it's a long game. It's a long game for us, because by taking that step back and finding out what people want doesn't necessarily mean they can have it.
No.
But unless we start asking those difficult questions, I like to call it positive disruption, really, because if we don't disrupt the system a little bit in a positive, managed way, then how are we ever actually going to know?
But I can imagine there's some fear amongst local authorities and stuff about giving too much choice. We can't necessarily meet these needs,
And when I said that we have right from the beginning been very clear that we'd like to involve all of the stakeholders, that has absolutely been a question, that has been a concern raised by local authorities and families to some extent. It's about managing expectations. And we feel very strongly that that's the same for all of us, really. We need to have, all of us through life have had to have our expectations managed, and now we need to manage them ourselves. Whether it's the house we want to live in, the holiday we want to go on, we often can't have it. And that just means there has to be another conversation, which is really useful. So that's not a reason not to go ahead, really.
No, absolutely. So you've chosen tech as your kind of platform for this.
That's right. Yeah.
And so how's that looking? What does that?
So what we did initially, working in England with a couple of local authority areas, we were successful for some lottery funding, and we set up an advisory group with a view to proving the concept. We're proving the concept is it beneficial for people with learning disabilities to use technology? We call it a toolkit, developing a toolkit. Is that beneficial for people to be able to use that to understand their options and express their wishes? And also, is it helpful for all of those different stakeholder groups? And when I say stakeholder groups, families, of course, and local authority education, social care, NHS, housing providers, so that the whole group, education being a biggie there. So we wanted to make sure, as part of our test, that we could bring all of those groups along with us. They'd be at the table with us. So we chaired an advisory group. We had a very basic proof of concept version that we created ourselves, took it to the group, had some feedback, and then trialed within the group. And yes, it proved that it is possible and it is beneficial. There were some difficult questions, mostly around managing expectations, actually. And also the families that were involved tended to be families that are already in crisis and they're wanting a solution now. And we're asking some questions about what somebody might want in the future, and it doesn't deal with the crisis now. So we had some really important lessons there. Crisis is with us, it's not going away. But actually, unless we address some of these issues, we'll never really be prepared for that.
No.
So
it's designed more for people, maybe sort of obviously we never know when a crisis is going to happen, but kind of trying to get people maybe younger before they reach a point where they're transitioning to adult services or
that's right. Yeah. So that went well, that proof of concept. We had interest. The proof of concept was in 2 local authority areas in England. We had some interest from Wales, who heard about it and said, hang on a minute, what about us? You've got to involve us.
Oh, that's good.
So we opened up that trial to on a very small scale to Pembrokeshire, who loved it. And then once the proof of concept had completed, they worked with us in approaching the Welsh Government, and we were successful in getting some funding from Improvement Cymru.
Great.
So as a very small charity, we needed to take what we might call our low-hanging fruit and keep that pace really with things. And so we took the proof of concept version that we had. We had an advisory group in Wales, in Conway and Pembrokeshire, with some funding from Improvement Cymru, and we had a very similar process whereby we looked at it, we adapted it, we included Welsh language, and we ran a trial, which again proved to be, it was an improved version and proved to be very hugely successful. A really notable success for us was a family in North Wales who, there was a school involved with the trial in North Wales who then sent letters home to parents saying, we're using this at school, can you at home as well, please, which then happened. Lots of lessons learned because it was a trial, and in a trial the education sector could manage that. Because that's young people expect there to be structure at school, but kitchen table conversations at home in terms of using the toolkit was quite different. But just the day before the end of the trial, the parents struck gold with their son and was blown away by their son's thoughts for his own future, which wasn't at all what they thought it would be.
Really?
And it happened to be a family that were involved in the parent that was involved in the advisory process. So, and even though she kind of knew it was coming and was aware of the journey so far in terms of the project, she was absolutely amazed that her son did know what he wanted to do and was able to express it to her because he'd done the same thing at school using the same tool.
Right.
So that was great. And
wow.
throughout the project, we've been and we continue to feel very strongly, is that people should use this tool as often as they like, or as little as they like, with as many different people as possible. A great example is parents, sibling comes home from university, education, take it to the annual review. And over time, those patterns haven't come to this yet, or will do, but of course it's digital. So not only is it mobile for the young person in terms of completing it with different people over any time frame, but of course that data that we'll be gathering behind the scenes on individuals' wishes expressed by themselves, but also the more people that use the toolkit, then obviously that national picture builds and builds and builds in terms of people's wishes expressed by themselves. And whilst that wasn't, when we set about setting up the charity, that wasn't our reason at all, and actually it wasn't particularly our reason for using technology, but it became really clear very early on that that's an intended consequence, that data would be gathered about the wishes of young people expressed by themselves over time. That's why one of the reasons it's so important, that long game, because if you imagine, the toolkit is available for people from the ages of 14.
Okay, so quite young.
Yeah, we ideally, and over time things will change, because I would like to see those kitchen table conversations going on with all the other siblings. When you've got your own house, I'll leave my shoes on your doorstep. The age of 3, 4, 5, that conversation that happens in families at all ages, and that's our long-term vision. But for now, as we start off, we're looking at from the age of 14, because it wouldn't necessarily be age appropriate for people that are younger. No. And there's that preparing for adulthood, year 9 agenda going on. And we've kind of said 35, not because it needs to stop at 35, but the toolkit's a little bit of a gamification.
Right.
To create an avatar, this is me, this is what I look like, this is who I am, being on the journey. And we found from our trials that people over 35 like that less, and we're not able to take that feedback from everybody at the moment. Also, 35 is seems like an age when people's parents are maybe aging themselves, and it's kind of a bit of a cliff edge for people. If they're still living at home and haven't been having that conversation, then there's real potential for crisis.
Yeah.
So
so it has got at the moment a sort of suggested upper age limit.
Yes, albeit, it's just about where we're promoting it, really. It doesn't exclude anybody in the upper age limit. And there are, in England and Wales, in the region of, the data's not totally available, in the region of 350,000 young people who could benefit from using this toolkit in terms of having those conversations, whether they be kitchen table or more formal education, or however that might be.
So that's 350 people with a support need who will need to sort of be thinking about futures and where they're going to be going.
So 350,000 people who fit within our definition of learning disability.
Right.
But it is not, I mean, it's not an exact figure, because our experience is that the exact figure is not readily available.
No, I don't think anyone has it, do they?
But it's a lot of people, isn't it, that could benefit. You imagine we're already seeing the impact now for people who are starting to use that. We can see light bulbs going on. Oh, okay. Well, I could live with my girlfriend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What, like my sister? Yeah. So you need to be support. You know, there are lots of things that need to happen, but yes. And then you could imagine over, I don't know, a 20-year period, the patterns that we'll be able to see, the numbers. The other thing actually that I haven't said that's really important, we don't make any suggestions that people need to move. We're not saying, oh, you're 25 now, you must leave home.
Right.
What we are saying is that life happens, things change. It's always a good idea to reassess your current situation, be thinking about the future, be aware that there are other options, so that if nothing happens and then we get to a crisis, there's some information available. We're not on the back foot.
And presumably, because this has been done on a tech platform, it's relatively cost effective for it to be rolled out at scale.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, as a third sector, you could imagine from a data perspective, private sector has been quite interested in getting involved from a funding point of view, because not only will that data be hugely useful over time, but also it's kind of the right thing to do. If you're going to be involved in something, it's the right thing to do. And we've kind of backed off from that. Well, not kind of, we've actually said that no, we need to be third sector. We need to, we can't, we've got to be in that completely non-biased position. And interestingly, that proved to be, for the project in Wales in particular, it proved to be hugely beneficial, because at the moment, and again, hopefully this will change, there's real trust with the third sector. So those difficult conversations, knowing that information is safe with the third sector, and that there's no alternative, there's no ulterior motive.
Yeah, there's not an agenda here that you're going to try.
Agenda. Yeah, it's completely about the young person having those conversations. It's not doing anything else at the moment. So,
and I suppose as they're trying to predict better future patterns, future needs of housing, future needs of all of those things. Actually, this could be a really important part of that data collection, couldn't it? Obviously in an anonymized way, but actually just knowing this is potentially what we are going to need if you're seeing patterns of what people are going to, where people are wanting to live.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's at a national level and regional and local, actually, that's really exciting, because not only can young people now start to feel more empowered, but that contribution over time will just be massive. At a national level, could really see this having a positive effect on policy. From a housing provider point of view, it's what sorts of houses and where. And from taking education specifically, my background then is our curriculum, right? Something I haven't said, actually, when mostly the vast proportion of people are using this tool with support, and we invite the people supporting to give their email address, because the person supporting can have access to that person's data or that they gave them. So in a college setting, for example, the teacher might use this with 10 of their students. That teacher would have access to the data that those 10 students have given to them. The teacher hasn't got access to the data that they've given at home.
No.
Different. And the parents or siblings haven't got access to the data given to the teacher.
Right.
The only person with access to all of the data is the young person.
Right.
And there's that real ownership there. And of course, the third sector, the charity, because we hold that data. So it means that at a local level, education is a good example, really has the information about their students as evidence of good practice, but also for planning themselves.
Yeah, and to feed into those EHCP reviews and everything.
Yeah. I mean, we'd like to think, and actually we've got an interesting project coming up in Wales, which is about embedding now. And we would like to think that, maybe I'm jumping the gun a bit here, but anyway, we'd like to think that the EHCPs and the IDPs in Wales have a tick box that says, have you used your where I want to live? Not there's no you must.
No.
But actually, do you know about it? Have you used it? Because if you have used it, then that information is more readily available to you, and it just kind of puts it on the cards, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that has been suggested to us. But we just, as I said at the beginning, we're taking it steady and making sure that we bring people with us, because trust and that kind of joined upness is really critical. That we do this at a steady pace that makes everybody feel secure, whilst we are positively disrupting.
It's a tricky balance to get right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So if people are listening to this thinking, oh, this sounds great, how do I access this? How do I get this into my school, into my local authority? How do people do that, Louise? What do they need to do?
So the toolkit is now available on our website, which I'll share the website.
Yeah. We'll put all the links in the show notes too, but do say
it. Lovely. Yeah. www.whereIwantToLive.co.uk. And we've got a pop-up on the website that takes you straight to it's the first thing that you see into the toolkit. We don't currently have the toolkit is there and it's available. We're a small charity. We don't have it is what it is. We're not in a position to make drastic changes. It's used as it is. It's anonymous. But it is available for people. We are very excited. Maybe this is a good time for me to say we're very excited about the potential of this. And we, as you said, because it's digital, it's scalable. So looking, that's our next phase is scale. And what we have found is we do need to support people to embed into their practice, because there's lots of evidence, lots of research, lots of evidence that the workforce finds it difficult to change practice. Even when the new practice is not more work than the old practice, it's a change. And so supporting the workforce to change their behaviour, and supporting families to trust the change and to see, to think further than the potential crisis that's on the horizon, but actually to be willing to have those difficult conversations. So we're looking at supporting that as our next steps.
Some sort of training for people.
Yeah, so it'll be a bit. It's looking like it'll be a bit top down and bottom up. We're very big fan of bottom up. However, if there was some organisational expectation, then that would also be helpful. So we're expecting that. The other thing that I haven't spoken about yet is the toolkit. At the moment, the toolkit will be in 2 phases, and what we've done so far is phase 1. Now, the technology is actually very straightforward. It's the bringing people together that's complicated and takes time. And we ask about 8 questions. We set the scene. What do you do now? What's your current situation? And then we move to what might the future look like. And it's anonymous. So we ask the person their first name and the first part of the postcode where they live now. We don't drill down into very little. And that's absolutely intentional. It's a conversation starter. But what we intend to do is to take the toolkit and say, Louise, you said you want to live in a town. Which town? And then I say Cardiff. Louise, you said you like sport. Which sport? Netball. The system knows that I'm a wheelchair user. Okay, Louise, These are so we now know more about Louise. So that trust that we've given a bit more information. And the toolkit's currently written with conditional questioning, so it's set up in order to be able to do this. But we are very excited because of not only the data, the more specific data that will give about wishes, but also needs. We will be able to drill down further, but also the possibilities for signposting people. So, okay, Louise, here are the contact details for the disability netball clubs in Cardiff.
Right.
Or here are the details for the supported living houses in Cardiff that have got, whatever it is that somebody might need. And we've explored AI for that. We're very cautious and we're not near to it yet. So I don't want to make anyone fearful, because there's an awful lot that's wrong with AI, but the potential is quite exciting.
Absolutely, the potential, if used well, is for this kind of thing, could be amazing.
Yeah. There are some conversations to have with the AI providers, I think, about age appropriate and learning disability and what have you. But it's quite exciting.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, Louise, and we hope. Sorry, just one more thing.
Yeah, no, it's great.
We hope that the toolkit will be seen almost like a passport for somebody, so they can use the toolkit now as often or as little as they like. There's no time on it, and it just goes with them through life. They may add a bit more. You can save what you've done and come back to it, almost like this is me. But, and it's about what you do as well as where you live eventually.
Right. So it sounds like such a powerful tool, Louise, and it sounds like you're just doing such great work with it. Thank you for coming on and sharing about it and helping us all to understand how we access it too. Like I said, we'll put all the links in the show notes so people can find those and can contact you that way as well. So thank you.
We'd encourage people to get in touch. So, our email is there. So do get in touch with us. That would be great.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you're finding this content useful, then maybe it's time you join the Supported Living Property Network. If you're not already a member, then let me explain what's included. The network is a unique community of property investors and providers coming together to create quality supported living homes. If you're a property investor, you can list property on our portal for our provider members to see. You can access the demand portal where our providers list where they need property, so you can buy property to order. If you're a provider, you can access the property portal to see where our members have property available for you to lease, and you can list where you need property. We do not charge any additional introduction or sourcing fees. You also get access to our monthly training sessions with industry experts to help you understand supported living property and keep up to date. You get access to our monthly online networking sessions to help you connect with property investors and providers. I've written 2 training courses, one for providers and one for property investors, to help you get started in supported living property. We have a membership area filled with resources that you need, where you can watch the previous training sessions too. You get all of this for only £47.50 plus VAT a month. And because we do not want you to stay unless you think it's incredible value, you can leave at any time. Just give us 14 days notice. Simply go to www.supportedlivingproperty.uk. That's www.supportedlivingproperty.uk to join us now.